Dr. Cheryl, and welcome to Wake Up with Dr. Cheryl. This evening, we have a very special guest, Dr.
Me, Elson Haas.
Yes, Elson Haas. And he is an integrative practicing doctor in Marin. And our show tonight is about the wealth of health and wellness and practicing it with new medicine. And we're going to do a little bit of a prayer before we start. And this is what I like to do is thank you, Mother, Father, God, for giving us the divine intelligence and communication through Dr. Haas and Dr. Cheryl to inspire the listeners and viewers and whoever else is out there to practice healthy living and practice unconditional love. Amen.
Kindness first, kindness. Kindness always, and
Yes.
This is Wake Up to Your Health.
That's right.
Okay.
And we're focusing on what you practice tonight. You get to be the one that shares, and I'll just pick your brain.
All right.
So you're from Detroit originally?
I grew up in Detroit, yes.
Motown.
Motown. I liked good music, and then I went off to Ann Arbor to University of Michigan and had a grand old time there and went into medical school and then intern. Then I came out. It was 1972 that I graduated medical school, and I said, I can go anywhere to intern. I'm going to go move to Berkeley because I had been coming out here. And, you know, it was like here in the 70s, it was the place to be. And
Yes.
so I lived in Berkeley. I interned at Highland Hospital.
Oh, yeah.
And then I basically went into practice. At that time, you could, you know, just do, internship. And pretty quickly after that, I realized, you know, I learned a lot about health, disease. I didn't learn a lot about health in medical school and practice. I said, I need to learn about health and healing, you know, and I started with myself.
Right.
I said, because I was, you know, pretty overweight, you know, all the way through, you know, college and med school. I had allergies all the time. And I started looking at health, and there wasn't a lot of health information out. Health food stores weren't anything like they were now.
Right.
As I started studying herbs and walking the land and talking to people who knew about herbal medicine, I started making some of my own potions and had, you know, bulk herbs in jars in a couple cabinets. Now you can go and find, you know, thousands and thousands of products
Right.
available.
Right.
So all through the 70s, I was studying traditional Chinese medicine, natural medicine, cleansing. I did a juice cleanse to start off, my 10-day cleanse on what was called Master Cleanse. It's still
Oh, is that
called
Dr.
that.
Burroughs?
That's Burroughs.
I've
Yes,
done his for 10
met
days.
him. I met him. I went to a talk that he gave,
Okay.
and he inspired me. Even though he wasn't particularly healthy,
Yeah.
he inspired me to say, "Hey, what do I got to lose?"
Well,
I'm gonna
didn't
try
he use that for seriously ill people?
He did.
basically?
Yeah, he
mean-
used it for everything basically.
Yeah.
Um,
My mind was never so clear when
Yeah.
I did that.
And I have done, so basically I started, it wasn't easy, you know, giving up, I was a foodie, you know, I loved eating, I ate, you know, all the good junk, you know, that was, you know, provided.
Sugar.
And I realized, you know, and I started to, you know, I felt, you know, kind of crummy for a couple days, you know, especially dinner time. But the third day I woke up, my head was clear. I had at least 20 years straight of allergies and waking up congestion.
Yeah.
I realized that most of my symptoms weren't really allergies. They were part allergies, but more just the whole congestive diet that I was eating.
So it was
Anyways,
basically from your food.
Yeah. Third day I woke up clear. I started to have an energy level and a clarity of mind that I said, wow, I could feel like this. And I'm 27 at the time or so. I said, this is how I want to feel. And I realized that everything I put into my body becomes part of me. It matters what I do.
Yeah.
And I changed my attitude. And we'll talk about that in a minute.
Yeah.
My attitude went to, wow, this is the only body I have.
Right.
If I don't treat it with love, then who else is going to?
Well, and you know, we're not taught that very much in our society.
No.
You know,
We're not really trained on the keys to staying healthy or prevention or good nutrition. And that's why I focus a lot on working with children and writing some things for children, and used to go into schools a lot more than I do now, and I've done shows and songs and all that stuff, because what we all need to learn, and particularly children and families, is what's the difference between real food and treat foods.
Yeah, right.
And we should consume lots of veggies, good protein.
Organic, GMO-free.
Well, ideally, yes, but it's even, just getting a lot of fresh foods is helpful. And watching out for all those special, birthday treats and holiday treats and all the sugar and, substances that people take. And we'll get into that in a bit, because that's really a first level of improving health, is looking at what are we habituated to, what are we hooked on, what are we counting on for our life force and our energy.
That's right. And it's not that hard to give up sugar once you put your mind to it and you start practicing it, because there's alternatives.
Right. Well, one of my books I wrote is called The Detox Diet, and I have chapters on what I call each of the snacks, SNACC. I like acronyms.
No, I
Stands for
saw that.
sugar, S for sugar, nicotine, alcohol, caffeine, chemicals.
Yep.
And most people I see, and I've been speaking around the country and world for almost 40 years, and when I talk and look at audiences and ask them, how many of you don't have a daily habit to at least one of those snacks? Very few people, less than 5% of people will raise their hand.
Really?
And this could even be health groups,
Really?
Most people are habituated to some substances, particularly caffeine, sugar, alcohol, cannabis, etc.
Yeah.
And what we do is we use these, I've coined this new syndrome that I'm talking about, and I talk about on my website, and I have a program to help remedy that. It's called the stimulation sedation syndrome. And wherein people are using substances, the ones I just mentioned, to manage their mood and energy. And when they don't do that well enough, and then you don't sleep well, and then you're kind of tired the next morning, and you need more caffeine and a little sugar kick, and then later you're kind of wired up and you need. So people are managing, and my first level of improving health, because I'm really a common sense kind of doctor. I mean, what works? And when we talk about lifestyle and the 5 keys to staying healthy, you'll see that it's really about how do I apply and do what is just really common sense knowledge that we can we can use in our lifestyle. So one of my mottos in practice is lifestyle first, natural therapies next, drugs, surgery last. So if I can find, if I can correct it, when you start working with lifestyle, you're really working at uncovering or looking at the underlying factors that contribute to illness in the first place.
Right. Yeah. I'm a proponent of looking and referring to and referencing Louise Hay.
Well, then you're looking at more of the metaphysical mind-body connection and the psycho-emotional patterns that I think all illness has.
Right.
One of my, I really, from my early days of studies in Chinese medicine and metaphysics and all that, it's like when we're unwell, it's really happening at every level of our being. It's happening at a physical level. It's happening at an energetic level, which is the importance of Chinese medicine. It's happening at a psycho-emotional, spiritual level. And it has to do with evolution. It has to do with the struggle we're going on between our conscious mind and our subconscious, and the evolutionary process that's really trying to unfold for us.
The evolutionary process of each person.
Exactly. Yeah. It's very individualized.
Right.
So when I started working way back in the 70s, I moved out to Bolinas to be a country doctor for a few years, and that's where I wrote my first book. And I was working with a longtime friend of mine, Marty Rossman, who's a local doc also, written a book called The Worry Solution, has done guided imagery work. We were working with people's psyche. Basically we were sponsored by the Presbyterian Church to study healing.
Oh.
And so we were doing
interesting.
We were doing some sound and acupuncture together. We were doing relaxation, but our treatment was seeing things in the healed state. And that was our prescription.
The mental image.
Mental imagery.
Yes,
so 3 times a day, this was our only prescription we gave to people.
Yeah.
And we were testing this. 3 times a day for 15 minutes, you sit or you lie down and you visualize what's the illness is interfering you with, or it healed. Like if you had and it started at the same time. Carl Simonton, in the early cancer treatment, was seeing people do visual imagery of their white blood cells going and attacking the cancer and all that. So
it's powerful.
it was powerful, and it really is like part of medicine is really, in my mind, how do we use, if we think that the placebo effect is 50%, part of the healing process, we should use that in a positive way.
Absolutely.
Rather than a negative way. So now, like when I first started prescribing meds way back, I used to want to be responsible, just like TV commercials now. Well, this could cause this problem and this problem and this problem, okay? And I realized that every drug in the PDR, which is now this thick, has pages of potential side effects. But they don't occur, luckily. I mean, I still prescribe meds as a family doc, but they don't occur that frequently. So most of the side effects are 10% or less. So
not in my body.
Right. Well, not some people are very sensitive to it. But a part of it is if you had your mind say, so here's what I do. Like if somebody's, I see a lot of people, post-fire, autumn, winter, respiratory things, they've done garlic and they've done herbs and they've done this and that.
Right.
So I say, well, right now you're using your body's energy to fight the infection, but you're not really getting better. So if we use an antibiotic, now even though sometimes it starts as viral, there's usually a bacterial component. So I still do that occasionally. When I do that, this antibiotic's going to be handled well. So say I give somebody a Z-Pak, for example. Most people handle it pretty well. It's a much shorter course. It's, strong, but, it's only 2 pills to start, 1 pill a day. I said, it has some side effects, but you're not likely to experience that. But realize what you're going to do is you're going to knock down some of those germs that your body's struggling to heal with. And instead of that fight you're doing, you're going to be able to use that same energy for healing the tissues. And so it's a whole different kind of mental format.
With the antibiotic, when you prescribe antibiotics, do you also prescribe after you stop taking it, what to get that gut healthy?
Well, everybody's taking probiotics now. It's in the top 3 or 4 types of supplements taken. No, you may not, but you don't take antibiotics either.
No.
Right, so you stay pretty clear.
Probiotics,
I feel very blessed. I think because of the changes I've made. Now, I've been a proponent of juice cleansing as a potential therapy, not for everybody.
Yeah.
Detox, I wrote a whole book on detox diets. I do online programs right now. I just finished one that was 2 weeks off of caffeine, alcohol, sugar, wheat, dairy.
You mean all those at once?
Yeah, all these at once.
Can people, I know there's people that can do that. But
a lot of everybody can do it.
Well, yeah,
but what I find that if people go off 1 or 2 and we don't hit the mark, and they're going through it because it's it's a mindset,
well,
really.
Of course.
But I find that people. I've been doing this for 40 years. I've probably done tens of thousands of people on different detox programs.
Right.
When you do it all at once, you might feel crummy for a couple of days, but by the 3rd day, you start to feel a reduction in some of your symptoms. Yeah. I mean, people with allergies, people with digestive stuff, skin rashes, headaches. Yeah. There's so many things that it can help. But I do a 10-day juice cleanse every year for 43 years. I think it's what keeps me healthy. As I said, if I continued in eating my family's lifestyle, if I was alive, I would be on several medicines, have my weight a little less under control. I mean, I've always worked with my weight since I was 6 years old. But I exercise a lot. That keeps me going. Yeah. So
that's so important.
Yeah. So there's a lot of things that are important about our health, and it takes time. But my message with everyone is, you've got one body to take care of. If you're
the only one that can.
You pay attention to it, and you start with the building blocks for good health. And whether you're 6 years old or 66, you can make a difference in your health if you really come back to the simple lifestyle that will create health.
Absolutely.
So I've been saying a long time, most people live in a way that generates disease. You can also live in a way that can create health.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I was exposed when I was a teenager when my father had a heart condition. He had rheumatic fever as a child, but he had a heart attack when he was 51 in a dentist chair. And basically, the left part of his heart was left.
Was damaged.
Yeah. And so he made it till he just missed his 58th birthday. But salt, I eliminated bad salt, got the sea salt at that point, and I never have used a lot of
Right.
salt.
Well, you may not have his genetics, number one, or you didn't have rheumatic fever
No,
either.
of course not.
So
Yeah.
you don't have the same,
No,
pathology
but that
that
was
started.
my wake-up call for like
Right.
taking care of yourself.
Right.
Not that I have been consistent for years, but I have definitely been recently. I'm always working on it.
Yeah, we never stop working on our health. Doesn't get,
No, and never stop learning until my last breath.
right. That's good. So we have up, I guess people can see this,
Oh yes.
right?
Yep,
So the 5
everybody.
keys to staying healthy, that's a chapter in the book I have also on my website, elsonhaasmd.com. I have a free program called the 5 keys to staying healthy, which allows you to assess all these different areas up here. Good nutrition, regular exercise, quality sleep, managing stress, and getting a healthy attitude, keeping your attitude up, which has to do a lot with what goes on in here. Positive self-talk.
Yes, absolutely. And my saying is attitude is everything. Because
Right.
it is.
Yeah, I was doing a prayer before dinner, and I was just, all of a sudden it popped in my head. I said, gratitude is a grateful attitude. So, and that's it. And it's easier if you feel good and your life is okay and you're not struggling, emotionally, or you're not struggling financially. It's a little easier to have that. I feel very blessed to be who I am and do what I do. And, and I don't take that for granted. I live one day at a time,
Oh, of course.
And, and I hope I have some more years left because I got some good things I want to do. But, you can't take that for granted. So you got to, do the best.
We can't take our bodies for granted.
Right. And it's very common. I see people every day that, need to work on improving their health. And they start with the 5 keys. They start with looking at their daily habits. And it is possible to make change. It is possible to, the name of my program on my website is Regain Your Natural Energy. And it's a self-guided support program with me guiding people day in and day out on eliminating the stimulants and the sedatives that we're all doing.
Now, do you put in there like to replace something,
Sure.
because that leaves that empty spot when somebody's trying to get off alcohol. It's like, what do you do? Because they can't. I mean, I'm sure some people can do this instantaneously, but to have that spot filled with God or with meditation.
Or even just with good food. I mean, when you get people off of, like I had a patient I saw yesterday, a gentleman, city planner, stressful job. A couple cups of coffee in the morning, a couple glasses of wine later. And that's how many people live.
Every day.
And he's not, I said, when's the last time you actually took a break from both those for a couple weeks? And it's like, a long time ago.
Yeah.
Both at the same time? I said, and it helps what we talked about before is the more, I do a lot of allergy testing and treatment. I do a lot of elimination diets where we just say, if we believe that how we live creates the level of health, how we look and feel is based on how we live our life primarily. Okay, we have a little genetics thrown in, we have all that,
Right.
but that's all changing too. We're the talk that we met at. Ken Pelletier on his, genetics, epigenetics, and your lifestyle, your diet, your stress level affects whether certain genes are expressed or not.
Right,
so
exactly.
the healthier you are, the less likely you're going to have what your family had.
Right, absolutely. 95% we have control over.
Right.
Yay!
Right, and even the research on cancer, when we really take care of our lifestyle, we have a much less. I've written. One of my first talks I ever gave was 1980 at College of Marin on this whole cancer series. I gave a talk on prevention of cancer, and we know a lot more than we did then. But a lot of cancer experience is based on lifestyle habits. 70%, as you used to say, but maybe that's been changed, but it's still close to that.
My sister-in-law started over a year ago with cancer in her spleen. She did radiation, and then it showed up between her stomach and her esophagus. They did another series of chemo, and then it showed up in her lymph nodes, and they had to scrape her pancreas. And I was just there at Christmas to visit my brother, and I said, Vernine, have you given up sugar? She goes, I'm not giving up sugar. If it kills me.
Right.
Right there.
Well, but she's already fairly advanced, so it's a little harder to kind of blame one thing then. But yes, I mean.
I would stop if because sugar is.
Yeah, but there's also, I remember in med school seeing people who had, throat cancer, smoking out of their, respirator tubes, and people.
Addiction. It's addiction.
It is, and that's a lot of what I look at too. And if you're coming to see someone like me, and I'm saying, well, we should look at, also that gentleman who has 2 cups of coffee, well, he's also got high blood pressure. So when I treat somebody naturally, trying to get their blood pressure down, which is, an integrative approach, is one of the best ways to start reversing these early things. We'll talk about that in a minute on the health illness continuum. But I think people, that's part of it, is like caffeine raises blood pressure for most people.
Yeah, I know it did for me.
Yeah, so you just have to take responsibility and just see, the more attached you are to giving up a substance, the more likely it is undermining your health.
Well, and getting educated.
Yeah.
Education is. Right.
And that's not to say that a glass of wine, a cup of coffee, even a couple of cigarettes, even though it's how we do them, and it's a relationship. In my Detox Diet book, that's what I talk about. It has to do with your relationship, whether you're really habituated and you're in need. Yeah. And a lot of times it's a bad relationship, and sometimes you can't even acknowledge that until you take a break. It's like if you're in an abusive relationship, and you're plugged in, when you get away from it and you start to realize that your body can relax a little bit and stress out, and you come back into it and see that, this is really painful. This doesn't. It could be about a job that you don't like too, in the working environment.
It's kind of a human condition.
Right, but it's true. But you have to get away from it, and that's the whole idea of looking at healthy habits and lifestyle, is that you kind of get away from whatever you're doing and live in a little simpler way, and you see if you feel better. Like I know from experience that if we just had millions of people across this country do an elimination diet and get away from their substances, half of their problems would get better, if not go away. Right. Their blood pressure would come down. They'd be able to use less medicines with the help of their doctor. They would, have their blood sugar in better shape. Their cholesterol would go down. Integrative doctors across the country and world see that. I mean, that's one of, to me, the joys of the kind of practice that I do, is people can start to reverse their beginning chronic disease. Right. And when we'll talk about that on the health continuum. So,
well, you let me know when you want to start.
Okay, all right. Well, let's go into, since we have the 5 keys, let's get into that a little bit, okay? So the first one is nutrition. That's really one of our core building blocks. These are called the building blocks of health, right? So good nutrition, eat wholesome food, avoid junk, chemicals. I have, this large book, Staying Healthy with Nutrition, that's used by schools and nutrition, people in training. It's been out for, 28 years, 27 years. Eat wholesome food, avoid junk, avoid chemicals where you can. Part of, I think, really the beginning cause of imbalance in the body is deficiency of the nutrients that our cells need and our tissues need. Vitamins, minerals, amino acids, fatty acids, phytonutrients from plant-based foods. So we get if we are deficient in certain, then we can't really perform all our functions optimally.
I liked that you said in your book, vitamin L. And that's love.
Yeah.
Love.
I have a whole section on vitamin L in my nutrition. So that's one. And the other side of that imbalance is toxins, is chemicals and metals that get into our air, food, and water, or we put on our body, or we, inhale.
Geoengineering, the chemtrails, we're being bombarded.
Everything. Well, we have it from everywhere, and the glyphosate Roundup is, a big concern, kind of right around the world right now.
How do you fight that?
So if we simplify and we make sure we're getting good wholesome food and getting our digestion working better so that we're getting all the nutrients into our bloodstream and we're limiting the toxin we have, because our bodies know how to detoxify. We just can't, that's some doctors who haven't really watched about the detox process. They said, well, your body knows how to detox. Yeah, but we can only do a certain amount. If you overflow a kitchen sink, the water's going to run off. If you overflow your toxin load of what your body can handle, and when you're stressed out or when you're ill, you can't handle quite as much. Yeah. So that's simple. So that's the simplest idea about good nutrition. Right. The next is exercise, and to me, staying fit and burning calories and doing a good balance is, cardio for endurance, weights for tone and strength, stretching for flexibility, leads to relaxation and well-being.
So do you advocate calories instead of carbs?
I don't really advocate calories I advocate calories when people are underweight or losing weight. I said, count your calories. But I don't have people who are trying to lose weight count calories. I have them look at their eating program. I usually would have them do a vegetable-focused diet, lower carb for sure, for people who have a sugar issue or a carb issue, myself included.
Yeah.
So that's what I do now.
That's what I do.
But I also eat mostly vegetables. I eat probably 60% veggies in my diet. A little bit of fruit, not much right now.
Sugar.
I love rice and veggies and tofu and tempeh and all that stuff. I just eat too much of it when I do. So
I can relate.
All right. So I motivate. I try and motivate everyone. One of my lines in my book on exercise. You know what the best exercise is? The one that you'll actually do.
Yeah, that's right.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because a lot of times
that's why I love riding my bike.
Yeah, people don't like it. They got to find something that they enjoy doing. Some people don't like going to the gym. Some people, but we need the things. We need an indoor exercise. We need outdoor exercise. We need different ones for different seasons, and you need to fit it in with your schedule.
That's right.
I mean, I make it a priority in my life. People know I work out. When I see patients, on a day, I have an hour and a half break at lunch. I go across the road to the Y, and I do my workout. I play racquetball. I do a couple spin classes a week, and I have a variety. But I also have a rhythm to it, so I know that Mondays I go to a class in the late afternoon.
Right.
Tuesdays I go at lunchtime. Thursdays I go at lunchtime. Take Wednesdays off usually, but I also work in the garden. I go for walks and hikes and things like that. To me, I don't feel good if I don't, move my body and keep it up.
I totally am right there.
So that's it. So that's exercise. Next is stress management. We're not trained in how to manage stress early on. People are fearful,
Meditation.
Well, calming and breathing and letting go is really, useful. One of the things I want people to learn how to, and we don't learn this as young people either, how to disagree peacefully with one another.
Exactly.
How to
with love.
I call it fair fighting, in my book.
With kindness.
Yeah, I have a section in there, one of my favorite parts I wrote called The Art and Practice of Peacefully Not Getting Along. Yeah. And that's like not reacting, that's really listening, acknowledging what you hear, letting one person talk, using I words, so you're saying, I felt like this when you did this, I felt rather than you dumb jerk, you did this, No. So, I'm out, and I keep working on that in all my relationships as well. But also with kindness, if you keep love in your heart, you can have a disagreement with someone, but you don't necessarily have to be mean to them.
Well, it's also, I've always said for the last several years is you can agree to disagree.
Yeah.
And it's okay.
Well, one of the things I asked, I was coming back from the airport and I sat next to a well-known psychiatrist in the county who worked with couples a lot. I said, what advice would you give to people entering a relationship or getting married? Yeah, he said, don't say things out of anger.
Oh, absolutely.
So when you say things,
you walk away, get your anger out, and then come back.
You just control it. You just, you have to learn how to kind of pull into yourself so that you really can hear what people say. And that's one of the things in my staff. I have a lot of wonderful staff at my preventive medical center. But over the years, since I've had a lot of women work there, helping patients and all that, I said, it can't be like high school here. You have to learn the difference between a reaction and a response.
Oh, absolutely.
A reaction is a block, is is an attack back.
Yeah.
A response
People
is,
put up they were doing.
yeah, a response means you really perceived it, received it into your body, and now you can say, okay, I heard what you said. You said the blah, 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 and now,
It's
but I think this
maturity.
is the case, right? So stress, all right, so learning about stress and just having some techniques, mindfulness, relaxation, qigong, yoga, exercise is one of the better stressors.
Yes, and communing with nature.
Right, being out in nature, walking, breathing, relaxing.
Oh boy, breathing.
So I tell people all the time, so when we're working at a desk, for example, we start to worry, we're on the phone with somebody, we're frustrated, we have to get this done, that. We start to tighten up in our jaw. So one of the things I tell people is let your jaw go,
Oh yeah.
relax your shoulders, and even if it's only one breath, multiple times a day, just take one breath and go, and just let your energy come down into here instead of in here.
Yeah.
And that's a good thing. The next is sleep. I'm doing if you go on my website, I'm doing a free class on healing sleep, which is a lead into how to get your energy back, because 2/3 of the country does not sleep well on a semi-regular basis. 50% of people really have trouble sleeping. A lot of them are taking sleeping pills, and they get hooked on them, and they have to go into rehab. Some people can use them wisely. Some people just, that's what they decide. They use it for the last 30 years of their life, because as we age, we don't sleep as well typically.
Well, I know for myself, when I have my routine of working out, that I sleep much better. Much better.
Yeah, there's a lot of aspects. There's healthy, sleep hygiene, which is, keeping the electronics less in your bedroom.
Turning it off.
Getting your having your bedroom be a little cool, so you can get under the covers and cozy up. Not being on your computer too late.
Well, you need to turn it off.
Well, you turn it off, but not
Put it on
everybody.
airplane mode.
Yeah, well, you don't have to sleep with your cell phone and your computer next to your bed. So when I got rid of my TV out of my bedroom, I got my electric clock, all the electronic stuff out of there, and I got a different mattress, an organic mattress, organic sheets, and I started, that was a big shift for me.
So you
It was
were
a
having some sleep issues.
Yeah,
as well.
I tend to see, I tend to get up early, and sometimes if I got stuff on my mind, I get up too early. But I wrote a 1,000-page book. While I had two young kids at home. I was running a practice. People said, "When?" They know me. When did you have time to do that? I said, between 5 and 8 in the morning, when the rest of my family was sleeping.
Yeah.
Because when I did my first cleanse back 40 years ago, I saw that I could get better rest on 5 to 6 hours of sleep. And I would just wake up naturally. I use an alarm clock a couple times a year, usually if I have to get at a hotel or get up with the airport, to go to the airport or something like that, just to be sure. But normally I just wake up naturally.
There seems to be such a dichotomy of what is really healthy for sleeping, how many hours you sleep. I used to get 5.5, and I did that for years. And then I was told, you need to get more sleep. Right. And then, so I forced myself to sleep more. But about 5.5, 6.
Well, there's a couple studies recently. 7 hours seem to be the best number. But some people sleep 5, 6. Some people sleep 8. You get too much sleep, you can kind of lower your energy too.
Yeah.
But if you're excited about life and you exercise and you go to sleep at a reasonable hour, I think the key part is having a good rhythm in your lifestyle.
Right.
Consistent. And you go to sleep at a similar time, whether you're a 10 o'clock person or a 1 o'clock person.
Right.
Get yourself sleep. Part of the key is, can you wake up on your own and feel relatively refreshed? Sleep is restorative. Sleep is one of the keys to healthy energy and vitality.
And then before you even get out of bed, I learned this from Dr. Oz. stretch your body before you get out of bed. So I do it every morning.
Good. Well, I get up, and I don't get out of bed right away. I kind of meditate a little bit, and then I do a little reading, and just relax. So I try and stay in bed till 7, even though I wake up at 5:30 often. So that's part of it. So sleep, is there. Now, the last of the 5 keys, which may be the most important we talked about, is attitude, is really keeping that attitude about, taking love in your body. So I've adjusted my attitude over the years, and my attitude now in my 70s is to say, keep love in my heart, say yes when I can, but be able to say no.
Yeah.
And no might be to a chocolate chip cookie, or it may be to somebody asking me to do something that doesn't feel right, Right. And knowing yourself and knowing your boundaries is really helpful.
And I think that also ties into when people don't release the past. It's still in your body, it's still in your mind, your emotions, and when they don't do that.
Well, part of it is forgiveness, part of it is fear. I mean, my sweetie Jean asked me, she says, Elson, I don't understand. You go to bed happy and you wake up happy. I said, well, I would say that's because I live in denial and I don't watch the news. So.
And I said, yes, MD, Masters of Denial.
It could be. I mean, I have so much to do. I mean, if you watch the news, there's always a catastrophe going on somewhere, I mean, when it hits home, you have to deal with it, but still, I mean, you can't, there's not a day that goes by that someone's not murdered or somebody's,
I know it's happening, but I don't want to.
And then we have our, and then I see a lot of patients who come in. I say, what makes you nervous? They say Trump. I said, I know. When he got elected, I said we are going to have several years of a presidential reality show. Oof. It's just, it's not like
it's called
TV.
Wake Up, Americans. We the people have to take our power back. Wake up.
Yeah, wake up. Your favorite line.
Anyway, yes, it is. Well,
so let's see.
Okay.
So we have a.
So we're ready to go to the other section.
Oh yeah, we can go. We can look at another slide if that can work.
We have another slide. Eric, he'll get it. Anyway.
So this is a piece. There we go. All right. Well, this is a piece out of Staying Healthy with New Medicine. And New Medicine, the subtitle is integrating. New is an acronym for Natural, Eastern, and Western. And that's really what I started. I wrote my first book in 1981 called Staying Healthy with the Seasons, which was really one of the first books by a doctor about health and healing. And so the idea that integrated the cycles of nature, and Hippocrates, I have a quote at the beginning, Hippocrates said, if you wish to investigate medicine, look at the seasons of the year and the effects they have on us. And so it was kind of my back to nature book, and it coming out in 1981, which was kind of the new natural health world, and doctors getting back into more natural healing and incorporating that into Western medicine. And that's basically what my whole career has been, is how do we take healthy medicine into that, and that's partly what this question is. But paying attention to the seasons and eating seasonally, foods that balance our inner emotions, balance the external climate. When it's hot out, we eat foods that are cooling. When it's cold out, we eat foods that are warming. So it's that. But a couple months, I woke up one morning. I said, well, how's my practice different than other doctors? How is it different than kind of the Western medicine approach? And I have this kind of state here. The line on the left, the black line, it goes from kind of your state of functional health up to kind of not feeling good, having some symptoms, having some degenerative disease, pain and suffering, chronic disease, and eventually we die. So most practices, and and I do it as well. Some, as people come in and they have high blood pressure, you need to manage. Part of the key is, you have to get results. If people aren't sleeping well, if they have allergies, or if they have high blood pressure, for example, you can't just let it be and say medicines are bad and therefore what to do. But there are a lot of natural remedies that can work. So, lifestyle, if you can, but most people
I've been going through that myself.
Most people with lifestyle changes can help lower their blood pressure, okay, or their cholesterol or other things. So when you go into a typical doctor's office and you start having some high blood pressure, they're immediately going to give you a medicine.
Oh, yes. I've gone through 3 different medications, and they all had side effects.
Right.
I will not take them anymore.
Okay. Well, but you need to get your blood pressure down.
Well, it
so,
is.
Okay.
It is.
So that's the key. So part of the difference is when I work with people, I see them, and I'm looking at even my health history that people fill out is 5 pages. It looks at diet, it looks at your habits, the caffeine, alcohol, sugar, and all that stuff. And I start to see when I work with people on improving lifestyle and programs, they are starting to move up that right side where they start to get fitter, more energy. They become more, more vital, which is, to me, we want healthy aging. I'm not into anti-aging. I'm into healthy aging, and you do the best you can. How can you support yourself? You become more productive, more creative. When you feel good, in your later years, that's your spiritual time. You want you want to fulfill your being, your soul, in a sense, to do good things on the planet.
I think it's so important to have passion around your purpose. You have a purpose.
Yes.
And it's continuing.
No, theoretically,
I do too.
I've been Bethany, who's helped me with books and been my partner, partner in theater and writing and everything. She's is constantly saying, she calls me a psychologist. So I've studied cycles. I studied the rhythm, the seasons. I studied the daily cycle. And so part of our cycle is to pay attention to this thing that, in Chinese medicine, in ancient philosophy, there's 3 kind of 30-year cycles or 29-year cycles. You get to know who you are. The middle section is like, what do you do with it? What's your career? Right. Ideally, you've done a career that has supported you so that at 60 or 65, you can retire and do things that they call your destiny or spirit years, where they should fulfill you at some level. So when I turned 60, I was like, no, I can't stop doing what I'm doing. I love, working with patients. I love seeing people. I love working with the team of people I have at my office.
And why would you want to stop?
Right. So it's like, doctors, if you're enjoying what you do, if you're stressed out and you can't do it anymore, that's one thing. But, doing things that fulfill you is what you want to do. Yeah. And so, I get to travel now. I'm going down to, I get a little short holiday soon and go to Costa Rica and Honduras. And, I work in an orphanage down in Honduras for a little bit. And, I've done that. Last year I went into Dominican Republic and Haiti.
And that's all love,
Right.
That's...
And my son is doing beautiful work in Nepal. He was hiking when the earthquake happened 3 years ago, and he's been there with groups of people coming in to volunteer. They have brick makers out of the local soil. They're helping people rebuild. They've built schools. They've done all this stuff. So, I haven't been there, but he was working in Ghana, Africa, before, and I went over there for a month and helped, with medical work in communities.
And what does he do over there?
What did he do?
Yeah.
Well, he was educating people and working in communities, having them get good water, business support. So they had the program was college students came over and brought supplies and support, and college teachers came over too. And he also was doing medical work. So I went over for their first brigade, they called it. We went into a couple communities. And I worked with a couple Ghanaian doctors, and I have that on my website. I have my whole story of Haiti. I have travel logs, I call them. I have my Ghana travel log. I have my Haiti travel log.
I did see some pictures.
Yeah, so that's been life is enjoyable. I still I like it because I have kind of control over my life. I don't have to work for other people, which is nice, and I feel very blessed. So that helped me stay happier and healthy.
On that same path, maybe their own, venue, but you get to set an example, walk the talk, right?
I work on it. Let's say that. You're never perfect, but
well.
So there's kind of almost a Buddhist idea where death and enlightenment kind of come together at the top. So that's one. I have a lot of imagery through my books because I realized when I first started writing, we learn with our right brain and our left brain. So everything I like to have summarized in visuals, and my first book had 4 or 5 different artists in it. I do like to do charts, and you see from looking
Yeah,
through that part.
absolutely. Oh,
So
no. Wow.
so anyway, we talked a lot of things about health, and again, most of it's really common sense, and
Yeah, it is.
you know, it matters.
Well, it's education, you
Right.
know, and, you know, like I told my 87-year-old friend the other day, I said, I want to see you love yourself more, because she doesn't take care of herself well. And I mean, she's made it to 87, but she's all hunched over, and,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, my message has always been your good health starts with you. You know, one of the courses I teach is called, you know, Healing from the Inside Out,
Right.
or How to Be Your Own Best Doctor.
Yes.
You know, which is,
absolutely.
you know, so the
Well,
more we
and,
learn
and
about
I think
it.
in our society, and I think even for women more so, is it's been hard. I mean, I've had to learn. It's taken me years to really learn to listen to my own body.
Right, and that's not something we're
You
really
know,
guided
it's
to
always
do.
external, not internal.
Right.
You know, which, of course, is changing. You know,
And when
I mean,
people even have complicated stuff, I go back to my early days of inner soul searching, you know, working with your subconscious. Work with your dreams. Write down your
Yes.
questions at
Oh,
night.
yeah.
See if that'll come up for you. But usually, I think illness has to do with the struggle between your conscious control and your evolutionary subconscious. I mean, I'm a philosopher physician. That's been my life, you know, and
well, the ego does get in the
yeah,
way.
yeah. Well, that's what I used to say to people, because I used to put them on the table, and I've learned to do a lot of work with my hands with people, and you know, help get their energy moving. It's like healing can happen when you get out of the way.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if, you know, and the whole idea of Eastern medicine or traditional Chinese medicine is energy is flowing through your body. When it's flowing,
The qi.
everything is well.
Qi,
Okay.
yeah.
When it's blocked because of emotions or, you know, extreme climates or stress, you know, you get, you know,
Clearing
too
the
much energy. I
meridians.
get too much energy in my
Yeah,
liver now, and then I'm getting frustrated and angry, and the psycho-emotional patterns that come from energy imbalances.
Right.
So that's the beauty of you know, acupuncture and Chinese medicine, is
That's
that when you release the blocks, things start to flow better.
Absolutely.
And you know, and it's our stresses and our thought patterns and our imagery that creates these kind of blocks in the first place, I think.
I learned Chinese Jinshin Jiu-Jitsu, and I practice that
Right.
all the time.
Yeah, I do every morning. I do sometimes afternoon. I do a series of martial arts, 8 elementals that
And
Robert
Qigong is wonderful
and
too.
Qigong is partly Qigong, it's
Yeah.
partly energy.
Yeah.
I have friends who do the kata exercise, which is Michael Murphy and George Leonard put that together. It's a series of stretches and breathing and meditation, and you know, there's a lot of beautiful things happening in Marin that
Yeah,
you
well,
know, and you
we
know,
seem
even
to be a
Qigong,
little ahead
yeah.
of the
Yeah.
curve, you know. And
Well,
this,
it's present. People, you know, even
except
Pilates.
Michael Pritchard says, you know, Michael Pritchard, he says 50% get it and 50% don't. And I see you
Well,
work.
you got to find what you get, what works for you.
Yeah,
and so
exactly,
that's the
exactly,
thing.
and that's the key. Yeah,
Right.
and I saw that you worked with Dr. John Gray as well.
Yes, yeah.
He's been on my show twice.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
he's a good
Yeah.
man and a good friend. And yeah, we did an event at the Theosophical Seminary called Health, Love, and Yoga, where I talked about health, John talked about love, and Sherry Baptiste, who's a wonderful local yoga teacher.
Right.
So it was a whole day with nice lunch, and you know, and I did that. I did a similar program with Sherry and Dan Millman, Way of the Peaceful Warrior, who used to be a Marinite until a few years ago he moved back to New York. But we did well, yeah. A lot of people love New York, but we did a thing, and he did his Peaceful Warrior exercise, and you know, it was great, a great event. So, yeah.
Well, with all your wonderful knowledge and sharing and education, what for you, because we don't have very much longer to go, what are your most, you know, golden nuggets that you can give to somebody to kind of sum it up?
Well, it's, you know, kind of things that we've said already. Your health starts with you. If you don't take care of your health, who's going to. Men particularly don't pay attention that much, so they count on their wife or significant other to guide them. And I think men need to learn.
If they listen.
Yeah. Well, if they listen. But I think men need to learn to listen. Men need to learn a lot more. John and I talk about this too. It's just like the idea of nurturing, of caring, of being present, I mean, when I talk to women about what do they need in their relationship, I said, I want my partner to be present, to look at me, to acknowledge. And when I say something that, there's a chapter in a book I haven't written yet, but the most important words that a man has in a relationship is yes, dear. So
that's old school.
So listening, and being present and just developing yourself. I mean, we get stuck in one old way. So I would say, one of my messages is grow, is learn and evolve.
Yeah,
and work on the stuff that really bugs you the most. That's the stuff to go on to. And a lot of people in our age group and people over 50, especially women when they go through menopause, it's like, no, I don't want a partner in my life, whether it's a man or woman, but they don't, it's like it's a lot of work. I said, well, if you don't have that work, though, you're not going to grow. Relationships is where we grow the most, where we get challenged the most. And so, I see way too many people who, I'm starting to become a little bit of a matchmaker in my practice, because I say so-and-so, it's just like, what are you looking for in a partner? Are you really resistant to it? I mean, it makes, occasionally a patient gets uncomfortable, and I'm always kind of aware of that. Is like, let me know if I'm getting too personal or all that.
Oh, yeah,
but to me, a doctor not talking about sleep or love and intimacy, is your sexual energy still working? What are you doing? Well, no, and a lot of people just live in a cooperative way together, and that's fine. I mean, people have been married for 40, 50 years. Yeah, whatever works is okay, but a lot of people long for that connection. I mean, hugging and intimacy. It doesn't have to be sexual necessarily. It just has to be connected. So, I guess part of the message is connect with yourself, connect with others, and work on your growth, because whether you're 7 years old or 75, you always got room to grow. And if you start working on your 5 keys to staying healthy, you can improve yourself no matter what age you're at.
Absolutely. Yeah. Oh, amen.
So that's my simplest message, I guess.
Okay. Well,
so
do you want to share anything about your books that you have here stacked?
Well, I have that, but I'm also,
minutes?
I have my brochure. I have my clinic is called Preventive Medical Center of Marin, and I have a great team of people, and the website is Preventive Medical Center of Marin, and I'm just really proud of that, because
you said
I've been
for 35 years.
35 years, and really the work it takes to.
Do you have other doctors in
Yes, I have 2 nurse practitioners that work with me. I have another Dr. Tom Reese, who's an osteopath and a naturopath, and he does a lot of structural work. I have an acupuncturist who's also a naturopath, Nicole Yesman. I have Richard Shamas and his daughter, Gigi Shamas. She's an acupuncturist. He's a thyroid specialist and, integrative doc. I'm looking for a new doc, though. Any doctors out there want to have your practice managed and do good work and do a little more integrative care.
What kind of doctor?
Well, it needs to be an MD or a DO, ideally, because I want somebody who can bill insurance. Yeah. And who, knows a little bit about, healthy medicine and coach people on improving their health. Because, I'll just tell you, when you start working with people on their increased vitality and fitness and energy, they don't get sick very easily. And your practice is not wrought with crises every day. I mean, I go in, I see a lot of people in a day. I also do, I have nurse practitioner interns coming to work with me. I have medical assistants who are in training. We do internship programs. So I like to, I've always kind of been teaching as one of my things. The word doctor comes from the Latin word docere, which means teacher. So doctors are really meant to teach, and I said earlier, but when patients, I like to have fun in practice. I don't, You know, I mean, yeah, I can get serious too if people are really ill, but you know,
Humor is
fun.
Oh my
Well,
God, it's the
I know.
best
I
thing.
said I like practicing because I make it fun and educational. That's why I can give people a handout from one of my books. This is your issue here. Read this section here.
Yeah.
You know, or do a book, or you know,
I said, it's important for us that aren't doctors
right.
to educate ourselves.
Right. And the detox programs I do are valuable. I have people, now I'm doing them on Zoom. I have people all over the country joining me. I'm going to do a spring cleanse. I'm going to do on February 23rd.
Do you do this online?
Yes.
As a webinar?
All online, webinar on Zoom.
Okay.
Some are free, some cost a little bit.
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
you know, my free class on healing sleep is coming up on February 23rd. I have a spring cleanse that I'll do online. Last year was phenomenal. I had people all over the world doing it together.
Nice.
And there's
How do
a
you
great
promote
deal.
it?
Yeah, I just promote it on my website or shows that you know, I'm on.
Yeah.
I've been doing some podcasts and radio shows and all that.
Right.
I have a wonderful publicist, Eileen Dunay, who's in San Rafael. Yeah. So we have, it's just got to keep it all going. That's all. And I also feel like, I can relax easily. I don't stress out. I'm pretty even keel. People say, people who know me well say, it seems like you're always working, but you're always on vacation,
Yeah, well, you love what you do.
I know. Well,
and that's the key, for everybody.
If I can pull that off, great,
Just like I love doing these shows.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be doing a bunch of podcasts. And that's
Cool.
I'm doing promoting, doing the business.
Well,
of
that's
podcast.
it. I mean, now you don't have to leave home so much. So, the airports haven't gotten that much fun lately. So, it's good if you can do it, in your own home and reach out to people.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much
You're
for
welcome.
sharing all your wonderful, wonderful information. And thank you, crew. Thank you, Marin TV. Thank you, Carl, Eric, and Brad. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks.
And until next time, and who knows, maybe you'll be on again. Because I can see that there's a lot more.
Oh, yeah, there's a lot of different topics we could talk about.
This is, an overall thing.
More on seasonal eating, really healthy diets, putting some good food together.
Yeah. And you like to cook.
Yeah, I like to cook. I call myself a short order natural food chef. And I like to shop too, so I have always stuff in my fridge. So I cook and I did this when my kids were growing up too. What needs to be used today? Oh, that's going to go. And I put it all on the counter and I say, okay, let me whip it into something. I have several of my books have tons of recipes. One of them is called More Vegetables, Please.
Yes.
Because I want people to eat more vegetables, and I saw that.
I could eat artichokes every day.
Well, there's more nutritious vegetables than artichoke, but they're pretty good too.
Anyway.
All right, thank you, Cheryl.
Okay.
Dr. Cheryl, I'm awake still.
Yes, yay!
Right, cool.
Setting an example. All righty. 21 seconds.
Everyone,
well, actually, I gave us
take a breath, everybody.
Yes.
Take 3 breaths.
Yeah.
And do that when you go to bed at night, when you wake up in the morning. Just really connect with your body. I have people breathe with hand on their lower belly and their heart. Yeah. And just stay in your body. And
we have to listen to that brain. Our stomach is our second brain.
Right. Yeah,
some say it's the first brain.
Well, it definitely leads people a lot.
Okay, well, our time is up. Thank you.
Thank you.